Hello, my name is Rosette Masette, presenting to you a cross-culture analysis of Israel and the United States for Hofstede's culture dimensions. A brief introduction. For my final presentation of the cross-culture analysis, I chose to research about Israel cultural practices in comparison with the US. I chose Israel because of its rich history as detailed in the Holy Bible. Israel is a small country with many interesting things. It is synonymous to high-tech development, innovation and entrepreneurship, and is home to more high-tech startups than any country. This ecosystem of innovation and development, supported by a strong higher education system with world-reputed universities and colleges, made it a country of interest for me to study about. I have learned a lot about Israel's different cultural dimensions in relation to the US and the cultural practices that distinguishes the two nations. This information will be helpful for a person hoping to study, work, and/or live in America or Israel in several aspects, including communication, motivation, and teamwork. That diagram is for Israel, the promised land. The Bible tells us in Genesis 12, verse 7, that God promised Abraham to give him this land and his offsprings. The Bible also says in Exodus 6:8 that this land was given to Abraham by God, and it is referred to as the promised land. Overview, that's an overview outline. We'll talk about the geographic location, government, ethnic groups, and religion. That's the geographic location of Israel. Israel is a country in the Middle East at the eastern end of the Mediterranean Sea, bordered by Lebanon in the north, Jordan to the east, and southeast Mediterranean Sea to the west, Syria to the northeast, and Egypt to the south, with Jerusalem as her proclaimed capital city. Some other cities in Israel are Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa, and Beersheba. Ethnic groups and religion, and Israel's people. Israel has 80 million people, and 80% of these people are Jews and 20% non-Jews. Their language, they speak Hebrew. Hebrew is the country's official language, and Arabic also legally recognized. These pictures show some of the cultural aspects of Israel, the foods, the cultural dances, the dressings, the fruits, and the people of Israel. The Jewish population is diverse. Jews contribute approximately 3/4 of the total population of Israel. Jews from Eastern and Western Europe, the Middle East and North Africa, Central Asia, North America, and Latin America, defining in ethnic origin and culture, were brought from a variety of countries. The other tribes include Samaritans, Karaites are all people of Israel. Arabs are the second largest group of people in Israel, and though most are Muslims of the Sunni branch, Arab Christians form a significant minority, particularly in the Galilee region in the northern Israel. Arabs in Israel include Christian, Muslim, or Druze. They speak Levantine Arabic and learn modern standard Arabic in schools. Jewish religion. Religious Jewry in Israel constitutes a significant population. The two main religious ethnic groupings are those Jews from Central and Eastern Europe and their descendants who follow the Ashkenazic traditions, and Jews from the Mediterranean region and North Africa who follow the Sephardic. Karaites are considered part of the Jewish society. The Samaritans preserve their separate religious and communal organizations and speak Arabic. They pray in an archaic form of Hebrew. They participate in national life as part of the Jewish section of the population. Arabs as a religion. Israel's Muslims are Arabs. Like all other religious communities, Muslims enjoy considerable autonomy in dealing with matters of personal status. They have separate religious courts for issues such as marriage, divorce, and inheritance. Jewish religion. Jewish religion. The two main religious ethnic groupings are those Jews from Central and Eastern Europe and their descendants who follow the Ashkenazic traditions. An overview. Cultural differences among societies are based on various cultural dimensions and perspectives which need to be learned for effective cross-cultural relationships. These cultural differences should be used to help societies understand their own cultural biases and preferences. Different cultures have different ideas about their societies, workplace, ways of communication, motivating factors, and ideas of what they want from their leaders across cultural and geographic boundaries. This presentation explores across cultural communication, motivation, and teamwork in all Hofstede's cultural dimensions. These include individualism versus collectivism, power distance, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term versus short-term orientation, and indulgence versus restraint. For the US as the land of opportunities and Israel being the promised land from Exodus 6 verse 8. The US has a small power distance and is a total individualistic culture, masculine, uncertainty accepting, short-term oriented, and indulgent. On the other hand, Israel is neither an individualistic nor a collectivist. The most collectivist cultures in Israel are found in the Israel Arab societies, unlike in the Jewish cultures. Israel also scores very low on power distance, highly uncertainty avoidant, short-term oriented, and it is also neither masculine and feminist. Furthermore, there is no score for Israel on indulgence, and I personally believe it is more of a restrained culture. The thin lines that create differences between Israel and America are interesting to explore, but can limit cross-cultural relations if they are not put into consideration. Hofstede's culture dimensions. As already mentioned, those are the different culture dimensions as per Hofstede et al. 2010. Individualism pertains to societies in which the ties between individuals are loose. Everyone is expected to look after him or herself and his or her immediate family. Examples of individualistic societies is the USA. Collectivism pertains to societies in which people from birth onward are integrated into strong, cohesive in-groups, which throughout people's lifetime continue to protect them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty, as stated by Hofstede et al. 2010. It should be noted that Israel is neither an individualistic or collectivist. It lies in between. That diagram shows the power distances as the extent to which people in the society accept inequality in power and consider it as normal. Oliver Phillips, second and 5 seconds. It deals with how societies handle inequalities among people. The power distance index score can either be small or large, ranging from 0 to 100 respectively. That diagram shows masculinity versus femininity. The society is called masculine when emotional gender roles are clearly distinct. Men are supposed to be assertive, tough, and focused on material success, whereas women are supposed to be more modest, tender, and concerned with the quality of life. The US is a strong masculine society versus Israel. A society is called feminine when emotional gender roles overlap. Both men and women are supposed to be modest, tender, and concerned with the quality of life, Hofstede, page 140. It should be remembered that Israel is neither masculine society or feminism. Uncertainty avoidance is the extent to which the members of a culture feel threatened by ambiguous or unknown situations. According to Hofstede, uncertainty avoidance should not be confused with risk avoidance. Some societies are uncertainty avoidant and others are uncertainty accepting, that is weak mass. Israel scores low on uncertainty avoidance, strong mass, and the US high, weak mass. Long-term orientation stands for the fostering of virtues oriented toward future rewards, in particular preservation and thrift. Short-term orientation stands for the fostering of virtues related to past and present, in particular respect for tradition, preservation of faith, and fulfilling social obligations, as per Hofstede's page 239. Both Israel and the US are short-term oriented. Indulgence and restraint. Indulgence stands for tendency to allow relatively free gratification of basic and natural human desires related to enjoying life and having fun. Restraint reflects a conviction that such gratification needs to be curbed and regulated by strict social norms, as stated by Hofstede and Minkov, 2010, page 239. Cross-cultural comparative analysis between the US and Israel. This diagram shows the cross-cultural comparison of the US and Israel in the 6 dimensions of Hofstede et al. In the power index, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. The different the blue color stands for Israel, and purple stands for the United States. And the figures are as shown. The rankings. Cross-cultural communication. Americans communicating with collectivists Israel should be patient with indirect communication, and for individualistic Israels, Americans should relax regardless of the tone. Collectivist Israels communicating with Americans should consider using straightforward, short summaries and concise communication, because they can easily be misunderstood by Americans who easily understand direct communication. And also Israel should mind their tone, because it can be perceived as rude. Americans value individual success, and therefore are motivated by individual rewards such as individual recognition and self-actualization. Hiring and promotion decisions are supposed to be based on skills and rules only, also common to both Americans and individualistic Israelis, and this can drive motivation. Collectivist Israelis value belongingness and security, therefore direct praise of subordinates can be a limitation to harmony in the workplace. Americans working with collectivist Israelis should consider providing security in the workplace and also give room for more leisure than work to keep employees motivated. On the other hand, Israelis collectivists working with Americans should consider providing individual rewards to American employees, because this will motivate them to work even more. Teamwork analysis. For Americans, teamwork is an individual contribution towards the accomplishment of tasks, and therefore they believe that there should be freedom of speech to allow individual contributions. Israelis also believe that teamwork should be allowed to maintain order in the nation. However, they also believe that regardless of the presence of freedom of speech, sharing ideas should be respectful and well thought. Cross-cultural teamwork. Americans working on teams with Israel should communicate respectfully in a way that maintains order in the organizations and the nations at large. Israelis should also give individual consideration for Americans' input in the team. Both Americans and Israelis should therefore continue to communicate respectfully on teams and spend more time together in order to have more understanding of the other culture.